Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Nightfell core book. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this setting for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, where the sun has been murdered and darkness threatens to devour the entire world, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to take a look at the new options and classes, starting with the archetypes. But first, I would like to talk about this channel's sponsor, Heroes and Hardships. This is a universal RPG system allowing you to play any sort of campaign, adventure, story. You can create any sort of character imaginable. You have hundreds of tools to accomplish that. I'm going to put links in the description to the Kickstarter that should begin this October 4th. You will also find links to the website, to the Tetsubo section of the website. Tetsubo is an upcoming setting for Heroes and Hardships. You will also find links to the Discord, to my reviews of the Wallace campaign setting based on the life and exploits of William Wallace. You will also find my review of the Quickstart guide and my ongoing review of the early access core rulebook of Heroes and Hardships. So please check it out. Now let's continue. We start with the Barbarian archetype, the path of the unholy. Many fear the unholy, as their impulses of wrath are punctuated with madness, which makes them as unpredictable as they are unreliable. The heat of battle takes over in these warriors, blinding them to danger with the sacrilegious darkness that bloats their hearts and moves their arm. These characters draw strength and fervor from their own soul's distress. The descent into the oblivion of madness awakens violent and obscure powers along with the insatiable desire to use them, a desire to which they often decide to succumb. Those who choose to follow this path of brutality and insanity will take strength from the approach of the end and will weaponize the corruption of their spirit. This archetype has features such as Unholy Thirst. At 3rd level, you learn to yield to the temptation of darkness, foregoing fragments of your soul in exchange for a promise of power that can only really be unleashed when pervaded by rage. At the beginning of each turn, while in rage, you may choose to lose a soul point, and we will talk about soul points in a future part of this review. In doing so, the next strength-based attack with a melee weapon will deal 1d12 additional damage. If the attack is not enough to reduce the target to 0 hit points, you take 1d6 necrotic damage that cannot be resisted or reduced in any way. You also have Dark Devourer. At 10th level, you get nourishment from the essence of the dark creatures that die in your vicinity. If you were in rage within a certain distance of an undead, fiend, or an aberration when it drops to 0 hit points, you regain an amount of soul points equal to the creature's challenge rating. And then we have Unholy Wrath. At 14th level, your wrath permanently devours what remains of your soul. Entering rage involves a loss of soul points equal to your constitution modifier, and you add your constitution modifier to the damage inflicted with melee weapons as long as you are in rage. And these are just some of its features. Next we have the Bard archetype, College of Hexes. Legends tell of a bardic tradition capable of acting as anathema against evil, and whose apotropaic power was able to protect the helpless from the incursions of the creatures from the Dark Mirror. In the Lunar Age, bards who follow this tradition are respected and welcomed in settlements. Arcane dancers and musicians demonstrate their magical ability through ritual dances and exploit charms to draw their beneficial power from rhythm and melody. You have features such as the Convulsive Rhapsody. At 3rd level, you can force your opponents to dance, often frantically, following the rhythm of your music. When a hostile creature begins its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction and spend a bardic inspiration die to use this feature and perform a bizarre melody. The target creature will have its speed halved, and disadvantage on dexterity saving throws and disadvantage on the first attack of each turn for as long as the effect lasts. The Convulsive Rhapsody continues for a number of rounds equal to the result of the Bardic Inspiration dice spent. Then we have Irrepressible Dance. At 6th level, your coordination of movements and sense of rhythm improve significantly, allowing certain maneuvers to be carried out, such as moving during your turn by at least 20 feet but finishing the movement no more than 10 feet from the starting point. You can use a bonus action to force a target that you can see within certain distance to make a successful wisdom saving throw, or instinctively emulate your convulsive movements. You can move the target up to a certain distance in any direction. This movement causes opportunity attacks. Or, when you take the disengage action, your speed increases by 10 feet. We also have the Dance of Swords. At 14th level, your dance becomes indistinguishable from a fencing exercise. During your turn, you can spend a Bardic Inspiration die to increase your speed until the end of your turn. If you perform an attack action on this turn, you can make a single melee weapon attack against each target that is within the reach of your weapon at any point during your movement for the turn. Each attack made in this way has a damage bonus equal to your Charisma modifier. This movement does not provoke attacks of opportunity from targets hit by your attack. Next, we have the Cleric domain of creation. Among the apostates of Rahidra, some individuals are chosen to act as priests and protectors of life. These guardians of the primordial spark are a light in the darkness and hope for those who intend to preserve the natural balance, keeping alive what remains of the primes in the long struggle against the advance of nothingness. Although it is a role typically belonging to the tribal culture of the Ezre and the apostates of Rahidra, almost anyone can manifest a willingness to protect life from the advance of the Dark Mirror. The primes give energy to these adventurers, and the power of the elements manifests on their invocation, as a redemption of a nature that withers slowly, but without giving in to its own destiny. Within this domain you have features such as Disciple of Creation. At first level, when casting a cleric spell of first level or higher, you can cast a cantrip learned through the Sparks of Creation feature as a bonus action. This feature can be used as many times as your Wisdom modifier. Then you regain each use you spent after you complete a long rest. You also have Primeval Strike. At 8th level, you gain the ability to infuse your attacks and spells with primal energy. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack or a cantrip learned through Sparks of Creation, you can deal 1d6 additional damage to the target. This damage can be chosen between fire, cold, lightning, or thunder of your choice. This damage increases to 2d6 when you reach 14th level. Then we have things such as Primordial Rhythm. At 17th level, when casting a Creation Domain spell of first level or higher, you roll 1d6. If the result is equal to or below the spell level, you regain a use of Channel Divinity if usable. Then we have the Druid archetype of the Circle of Maciari, also known as the Circle of Death. These druids have learned to perceive the darkest and most dreary face of nature, and consequently to tap into it. They are the descendants of ancient pagan cults, and as such, they pass on the spirituality of those ancestors who first studied the esoteric arts that bind mortals and creation in order to shape the primeval energies according to their will. With the death of the primes, darkness has hopelessly corrupted the world of the living, and the Maciari are ready to use this evil against death itself. They usually adhere to the religion of the apostates of Rahidra, but it is not unusual to see them venerate older entities that dominated the world in the past. You have features such as Necrotic Caress. When you choose this circle at 2nd level, you learn the Poison Spray cantrip. You also have Dread Necromorphosis. At 10th level, You can spend 2 uses of Wild Shape simultaneously to transform into a Dread Shambler. This is an undead elemental, consisting of animal carcasses, mud, branches, topsoil, and bones. It deals a lot of damage and can easily knock prone many enemies. There is also Lord of Bones. At 14th level, your connection to nature's corruption and knowledge of death allows you to command the undead. When an undead attacks you, you can use your reaction to spend a spell slot and attempt to take control of it. And these are just some of the features of these archetypes. This concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to continue with the archetypes. I think that these archetypes are quite specialized. They are very well suited for this setting. You could also take them and use them in other campaign worlds, but they are going to be very specialized when it comes to dealing with the undead, fiends, darkness, and such. The Barbarian dams himself or herself in order to deal more damage, and feeds off of the energy of slain dark foes. When it comes to the Cleric, there is a certain randomness to augmenting the damage that you deal and getting extra uses of your spells and abilities. In the case of the Bard archetype, you can dance around the battlefield dealing damage while hampering or hindering the movement of your opponents, getting them into some sticky situations because they are forced to emulate your dance. In the case of the Druid, it is an interesting hybrid of Necromancer with a more tanky Druid. Thank you for watching this part of the review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.